This is Dangerous Danny Davis, and I'm with Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Come heat up your summer over at Captain's Corner, the purveyor of all things wrestling. We'll be working with stars like Wheeler Yuta, King Haku, Coco Beware, and many more in the months of July and August. Also, make sure to mark down September 20th on the calendar as we present Slam Fest 2025. Montreal's first ever pro wrestling convention will be presented by Captain's Corner and our friends at LWA. Featuring The Godfather, Barry Windham, The Godwins, Doink and Dink the Clown, and a dozen additional stars. It all happens at Ruby Foods on the 20th of September. Make sure to check us out on both Facebook and Instagram at Captain's Corner. Cheers to the working man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
For those who don't know, now you know, baby. This is Hot Rod Biggs, Jared, Jimmy Street. We're going to take them to the limit one more time, baby, right here on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I am here as always with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, brother? How you doing today?
Man, the summer heat will just get you down, brother. You can't go outside and even just breathe sometimes.
No doubt.
But to help cool us off a little bit, I brought some charisma with me.
You're telling me you brought the territory wrestling guru and the co-host with the mo-host, Quinton Quarisma is here?
You got that right.
What's up, Q? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. How you guys doing?
Oh, man.
Good.
Jared's sweating, and I'm panting over here. No, is it that hot in Bowling Green as well, my friend?
Yeah, man. It's just no relief, man. It's hot. It's really hot.
Yeah, no doubt. No spending time at the Beach Bend Park anymore, huh? What's up with that?
I would shoot. You couldn't pay me to go out there, man.
I get it. I think I saw some old stuff in the that Ghoulish group that Ed Harrison and Alan Moore run, and there were some pictures of, I think somebody posted of somebody wrestling at the Beach Bend Park or whatever.
Yeah, they used to run out there, their weekly show out there for a while.
That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Anyway, I love watching that stuff. I love that stuff. And really what that does is that leads me into this. Your show next week is actually going to be the inaugural episode of This Month in Wrestling History with Quinton Quarisma, man. Are you excited?
I'm excited and a little nervous because, it's the first time doing it. So, kind of, it's like, people going to like it, but it's good because, get it over with and then get the feedback and then, and critique it and, work on it for the next episode. And it's like, is they going to like this or like that? So I was like, well, let's just throw it out there and see what they like, don't like. In the next episode, we'll work on it a little bit and hopefully just keep getting better every month.
Amen to that, man. I mean, I'm already, I'm stoked. I'm excited for episode 1, but I'm already ready for episode 2. So we're excited for that, brother, for sure. But, the cool thing is, man, is we're going to get to listen to some history of wrestling. It'll be topical at the time, but it'll also be just a lot of fun, man, because I know every time you did that segment, I learned something, and I know Sheik did too. So I'm excited. I know the listeners are too. And like we said, guys, go out there and tell us all about it once you hear that first episode. We hope you're going to enjoy that. The next thing we got to talk about, obviously, is today's guest. I mean, we kind of skipped ahead a little bit there, but today's guest is awesome, guys. We have Dangerous Danny Davis, and not the Nightmare Danny Davis, which I've been blessed enough to talk to before, but Dangerous Danny Davis, man. How cool is this?
Very cool. Someone that, obviously had a lot of screen time in my youth, seeing him in the Fed, and as a wrestler and as a referee, got involved in the storyline, WrestleMania 3, even, man, we're going to get some good questions out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's to hear his story and everything. Because you see it, we all saw him on TV growing up. In two different ways. As a ref and as a wrestler, and it's just it's gonna be good to hear his story.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of this week, we have Dangerous Danny Davis. Then the last episode, we had Chris Danger. So I don't know if we're trying to warn the public, danger here. But anyway, that was fun.
I'll eat dangerously next.
Yeah. Oh, hey, line that up, somebody. Help us out. Shane Morton, line that up.
There you go.
No, man, but that was cool, dude. But anyway, Danger is a lot of fun. We're hearing a lot of good things about his episode, so I hope everybody enjoyed that one. We know that we did, and Danger's a fun guy to talk to. What'd y'all think of that episode?
He was great. Fun to hear a lot of Rick Reynolds stories.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I know most of his story, but didn't know much. The Rick Reynolds stories, I didn't know those, so those were good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said, anytime Rick Reynolds is talked about on the podcast, it's always going to be a good time. So we definitely appreciate you for dropping by last week, Danger. And for this episode, once again, we want to say thank you so much to Nick and the team at Captain's Corner. They are doing an incredible job getting you your favorite wrestlers, and you can get autographs, see them at conventions, and all kinds of cool stuff. The main important thing about today is the Captain's Corner Happy Hour virtual signing with Dangerous Danny Davis, Sunday, July 13th. Check out Captain's Corner today for all the details. Y'all enjoy that. Danny's going to be cool, and make sure you get his autograph and tell him that Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling sent you. We would appreciate that a lot. So, well, speaking of Danny, let's go ahead and get him on the line here. I know he's a busy man, and heck, so far we are too. So we'll be right back with more from Dangerous Danny Davis and Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling after these messages.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWO and Saw Wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
Hey, my name is Tammy Reynolds. I am the wife of Forsaken Rick Reynolds, that super cool guy that everybody knows and loves. And I represent West Side Sauces. I make sauces, I bottle them, I seal them, I sell them. I have a hot honey sauce, I have a sweet sauce, I have a hot sauce, I have a white sauce that's so yummy you can use it on everything. They are absolutely amazing, and I'm so proud of them. We make them from scratch. So go on our website, westsidesauces.com, check out our products, read about our story, and go online and order you some of these yummy sauces. And Rick actually uses all of the sauces because he is a die-hard smoker and griller, and so he likes really good sauces and rubs, and I make them, so how convenient is that for him? Go on our website, westsidesauces.com, order you some samples, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy them. Thank you guys. Be blessed.
All right, we are back with more from the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and we have an outstanding guest. I saved that term for very few people, and today, guys, we have another outstanding guest in the one and only Dangerous Danny Davis. Danny, it's awesome to have you.
What's going on, my brothers?
How's it going, man?
Good to be with you guys.
Good to have you.
Yeah, awesome to have you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that introduction. Very well said.
Well, it's only uphill from there, or downhill, whatever it counts. Whatever's good.
Right.
So the first thing we got to talk about is you're going to be with our buddy Captain's Corner Nick for a Captain's Corner happy hour and virtual signing on Sunday, July the 13th. Are you excited about that, Danny?
Oh, yes. I'm always excited to do these things. Yeah. As you know, and we all know, we're all getting older. We're not getting younger. And I'm excited myself to do these things, only in that we don't know how many more we're going to be able to do before we can't do them anymore.
Right.
We've lost a lot of good people, and the people who are listening, don't miss an opportunity to talk to Dangerous Danny Davis or any other person of my era, because you never know, it may be the last time. And not that I'm sick, and don't read into that.
Right.
It's just that, I've lost a lot of good friends, and a lot of people have missed out on really meeting or talking to some of the wrestlers that from my era that they just missed out, and it was just too late. And I wouldn't want that to happen.
Amen. And
Absolutely.
with Nick, he's got these virtual signings. You can be from all over the country and get an autograph or something signed from Danny Davis. That's awesome, in my opinion. So,
yes, that's a great thing. I'm glad that we live in this era.
Yeah.
Back in my day, we didn't have anything like this, so it's something new. And the people who know how to take advantage of these things and get these things signed and stuff like that, it's a great thing.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, speaking of those good old days, let's talk a little bit about them. And the one we start off with is my brother, the Plastic Sheik. Take it away, Sheik.
All right, Danny.
All right, Sheiky, what's up, Daddy?
So my favorite question is going to let the audience and the listeners know kind of about you and your influences with wrestling and who you like to maybe work with and everything like that. So like a Mount Rushmore, 4 or 5 names, and I want you to kind of break it down into 2 things for me. You can do 2 different sets: a Mount Rushmore of referees in the business, and then like a Mount Rushmore of like workers or managers, however else. So 2 sets.
Wow, that's kind of hard to do. I would say the Hebners, myself, and the last one. There was a referee who was one of the greatest that a lot of people wouldn't remember, but he was from California. And he was a referee, and his name was Red Shoes Dugan.
Yeah.
And he was infamous out there in California, and I know a lot of people don't know him, but I would include him on that Mount Rushmore of referees.
That's awesome.
So all you fans out there, look up Red Shoes Dugan referee in California, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. He was one of the premier referees out there.
That's
He was in Fred Blassie's era.
Yeah.
That's how far back he went. But if and I got to meet him a couple of times. Of course, when I met him, he wasn't able to go out there and do it. But when we went to California, he was always in the dressing room, and the stories were always there about Red Shoes Dugan. So
that's awesome.
I would respectfully include him in the Ralph Rushmore.
Yeah, I love that.
As far as wrestlers go back, I would say my favorite would be Killer Kowalski would be one.
Oh man,
I would put out there. Fred Blassie would be another.
Oh yeah.
The good doctor Billy Graham, Jerry Graham.
Okay.
oh man.
And Captain Lou Albano would have to be in one of those selections.
I love that. That's an awesome list.
That might be the most unique list I've ever heard.
That's going back. Those are the guys that I used to watch when I was a kid, and those are the guys that I would it should be, in my opinion, recognized, because without guys like that, what's happening today probably wouldn't even be happening.
Amen. Boom.
And let me just say that might be the most unique list I've ever heard, but it's a great list.
Well, brother, you asked, and I have to
Yeah, absolutely.
go with my heart, man.
And that's why I want to ask everybody, because everybody should have a somewhat different. You should never, if you get to hearing the same thing too many times, it's never good. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad I helped you.
Yeah. All right, Danny. How did you get started in the wrestling business? And did you want to be a professional wrestler?
Well, here's the story. Now, I wrote a book, as you all know.
Right.
And I'm not going to promote that, but my book says it all. What happened was I went to a little town called North Attleboro, Massachusetts, to an arena that the wrestling people came, Vince Senior's group came to every Friday night at Jack Witchy's Arena.
Okay.
And my sister took me there. And I was a street kid. I was a street fighter. I made my way through street fighting and stuff like that coming up. And I went to that, and from the day I went there, after that night, I said, I'll be part of that in some way. And, everybody, I was about, 130 pounds, 140 pounds. Everybody thought it was a joke. Well, it worked out where back in the day, you could go to the arena early and you could carry bags into, to the door for wrestlers. And I happened to run into a guy who was putting a ring up, and he said to me, I was still in school, mind you now, would you like to come with me and put up the ring? And we'll give you, in them days, you get a free ticket and maybe $10 to put up the, to go and help put up the rings.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and that's how that started.
Oh.
So I started skipping school and going to the arenas, and of course, most of them were on weekends, and helping with the ring, taking it out, putting it up, taking it down, etc. And I didn't have any knowledge of the business. I wasn't allowed in dress rooms. I had to wait outside, sat in the audience, etc. Back then it was a big, no to even be involved in any of that stuff until you get recognized. And I started taking jackets, and I ran into Bob, Ernie Roth, who was the Grand Wizard.
Oh yeah,
ran the New England territory for Vince Sr., and he allowed me to take tickets at the door. I would make a couple bucks there. I would put up the ring. I would put up chairs and stuff like that. Bob Harmon was his partner, Beautiful Bobby, back in the day. Yeah. He wrestled as Beautiful Bobby. Okay. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of him, but he was from Ohio, and they ran the territory for Vince Sr. And it was like from Maine to Philadelphia, and that was it. That's as far as it went. And it was like a big circle you went. So anyway, I know this is a long story, but you asked. Anyway,
what's what we want?
I started putting up chairs, and then I was allowed to bring the jackets back. I made a couple bucks there. And so eventually I graduated to Vince Jr. started taking over the business, and we were in Bangor, Maine, and someone didn't show up to be a referee. And so I went up to him and I said, look, I got to start making some more money here. I appreciate, being in the business and stuff like that. You helped me out. And he said, well, how about becoming a referee? And I said, sure. Now, here's a little interesting story. The next night we were in New Haven, Connecticut, and Howard Finkel, who became one of my best friends, him and I started in the New Haven Coliseum the same night. He started as an announcer, and I started as a referee.
Wow.
So that was, there's something a lot of people don't know, but it was the same night. So I had my tryout there, and then they liked the way I did my business, and I get to know the business from the inside out a little more. Obviously, when you're a referee back then, it was a big secret and stuff, but I had to find out the finish, So so I kind of caught on, and then I'm skipping through, trying to make it as short as possible.
It's okay.
So my career was, so then Vince Jr. took over from Vince Sr.
Mm-hmm.
And he moved from Connecticut to the Cape Cod Coliseum. So we moved down there. Howard Finkel moved down there. I moved down there. Vince moved down there. We were working out of the Cape Cod Coliseum under Vince Jr. So we were running towns and local towns, New Bedford, Fall River. When we go up to Maine, we go down to as far as New York and all that other stuff. And so they put me in because they were shorthanded. I was selling books. I would go in, I would set up chairs. I would set up concessions, which meant books, pictures. They were black and white pictures. I had to go get them, and we had a person that made them, and I would carry them to the arenas. I'd set up the ring. I would go in and referee. I would come back afterwards. I would settle up with the buildings, with the concessions, and then I would take down the ring and take down the chairs and load up and go to the next town. So that's what I was doing. Yeah. So then I'm going to skip ahead. There was a guy named Rick McGraw, who was a wrestler, and he took me under his wing, and he put a mask on me, and we used to do spot shows. Him and I would wrestle at spot shows. He broke me in, kind of, showed me how to work out, took me to the gym. I followed him around for a few years, and then again, we would do Tony. Tony, what was his name? He used to promote. He used to work for Vince, but he would get permission from Vince to do spot shows at high schools and stuff. So Rick McGuire and I would be put on the card, and I was wrestled as Mr. X with a mask and all of it. See? So then Jay Strongbow stepped into the picture, and I have a little bit of a native background, and so he kind of took me under his wing. And one night we were in upstate New York, and Vince Jr. didn't even know. I would go to TVs and wrestle as Mr. X. Vince didn't even realize who I was. Vince Jr. And he would say to the commentator, "Who is that guy? He's pretty good. We ought to make sure he's at the next TV." Stuff like that. Well, anyway, so it was a blizzard or an ice storm up in upstate New York we were in. I can't remember the name of the town. It was a small town. We were in high school. So none of the wrestlers could get through. So what Jay Strongbow said to me, "I know you're working. I've been working with you for a while now. Put the mask on, put the outfit on. You're going to wrestle tonight." Well, I'm a kid. I just starting out. I'm saying, "No, show. I'm all excited." So I said, "Who am I working with?" So he said, "You're working with me." So here I am, this kid out of nowhere, a street, going to be my first match of anything is going to be with Jay Strongbow, right? I'm all excited. And he came up to me before the match, and he said, "I want you to listen to me. We're going to go in the ring. You do exactly what I tell you, and above all, don't you touch me." So I'm saying to myself, I'm not going to say anything back. I'm going to say, well, how the f are we going to have a wrestling match without me touching? So we went in, they introduced us, and we went to tie up, and he said, "Leave." And I knew what he meant. So I get out of the ring, and he would come over to the ropes. He'd say, "All right, come back in. Go around the post and come back in. I'll back up." So he backed up, and I go to tie up again. He'd stop me and say, "Leave." So I left, he said, "Run around the ring and I'll chase you." That was it. And he finally grabbed me, threw me in the ropes, put me in the sleeper, 1, 2, 3. And that was the end of the match.
Awesome.
So that was my first experience as a wrestler. And of course, we went on from there, and Vince Jr. finally found out who was under the mask. And one day, the rest is all history. So that's how I broke into the wrestling business. And that's the Reader's Digest version, but there's more to it. Of course, as you know, there's more to it. But that's the high spots. So that's how I started in wrestling.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, okay. I got a question. So when you started reffing, did you ever have any help or any advice from Dick Worley? Because I know he was a top guy, top referee up in the Northeast for a long time.
Dick Worley, was one of the boys. He was considered one of the boys, and as one of the boys, unless you asked for advice, and went to him, he would say nothing.
Yep.
He wouldn't correct you. He wouldn't knock you. He would say nothing. If you went to him and you said, "How do you think I did?" he would give you an honest opinion. And I did ask him a couple times, "Am I doing all right?" He said, "Just do what you're doing." And that's how Dick Worley was. And he was one of the best also. I didn't forget him, but my era, I said what I said about the Hebners myself and Red Shoes Dugans. But there's a list, of referees that there should be more recognition for referees.
Amen.
In this business. I think there should be a Hall of Fame for referees.
Yeah.
I think more referees should be in the Hall of Fame. Not because I was one, but we did as much as most of the boys.
Yeah.
We were there every night. They would wrestle once. We would referee 3 or 4 times. and we'd have to our timing and the finishes would have to be perfect. And you know, it was before today with the earplugs and and all that stuff. Sometimes you had to improvise. Somebody got hurt, or somebody did something wrong, or you had to be there to cover it up. And I think that the referees were as much a part of the show, let's say, I hate to use that word, the event, as anybody else.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
A bad referee can ruin a good match.
A bad referee, back in the day, you would only do it once.
Yeah. Fair enough.
There would be no, that guy is never to step foot in that ring again. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there were a lot that tried and a lot that failed. It's just like the wrestlers. That guy don't belong in there.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And they were very frank about that and go right to bench and say, get rid of that guy. And that'd be the end of it.
Yeah. Well, what was the first big match you refereed in the WWF? What was the one where you're like, okay, I've arrived. I'm here.
It was as coincidentally, it was in New Haven Coliseum. It was Pat Patterson and Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh man!
And it was the blow off. Well, it wasn't the blow off. They were coming back with another match with a towel match, throwing the towel match.
Oh yeah.
But the finish was Pat would put Sergeant Slaughter in a sleeper, and I'd come in to see, to ask him if he wants to give up, and he would kick me in the stomach. I would go down, and Sergeant Slaughter would elbow him or something, and they would both go out of the ring, and then I would get up and count them out, and it went perfectly. It was my own brother came back in the dressing room and said, "You all right?" So because he really thought that I got kicked and shit like that. So
Man.
And they both came up to me and they allowed me to do the blow-offs, go all around with those two with the towel match, and throw in the towel match.
Man.
And so that was one memory that I will hold on to forever.
No doubt. I mean, you were in great hands with those two, obviously, but it's also such a statement.
Yeah, I could have stood in the corner.
But I mean, that they trusted you in there with them is huge too. So.
Well, again, I was green, and there's two guys, top guys, and it worked out. I mean, I don't take any of the credit. Some guys that were in that position could work without a referee. I mean,
right.
They could, back in the day, they could tear down a house and not even touch each other. The example given would be in Jay Strongbow. I mean, the people popped and it was a great thing and all that other stuff.
That's awesome.
All right, on January 26, 1987, you turned heel during the Bulldogs and Hart Foundation title match. After the match, you leave the ring with the Hart Foundation. How was the heat from the fans when because y'all took off running back to the dressing room? Was there a lot of heat?
It was bad, man. It was bad. Thank God for Jimmy Hart. He said, Danny, just walk out there. Don't, after, when we came back as Dangerous Danny Davis, don't look at nobody. Don't talk to nobody in the fans because there's going to be a lot of heat. And so I just listened to Jimmy and did what he walked straight to the ring. And it was kind of bad. I mean, wherever we went, it was kind of, we had to be escorted in and out of the arena and stuff like that. After that was kind of, so we knew it was over. I mean, over in that people were buying it. So
yeah.
And I had no idea that we're going to do that. I had no idea.
Whose idea was it?
I don't know to this day.
Oh, okay.
I was told this is what you're gonna do. Well, I was in Philadelphia Spectrum and I got a phone call from the office. So I said, "Oh shit, I'm done," because who would call the arena? So I went into the office and it was someone from the office and I don't remember who it was. It was a woman. She goes, "You're no longer Mr. X." So I said, "What does that mean?" She goes, "You're no longer Mr. X. You're going to, and that was the end of it." So I said, "Well, no more Mr. X. I guess they don't want me to be, to wrestle anymore." So when I went into Florida and they went over the match, I'm saying, "Wait a minute here. Well, what's going on here?" And Jimmy took me aside and said, "We're going to, do this. This is what we're going to do." So, and I didn't know it until that very minute. So when we went out there and I did the match, and I did what I did, and then the next segment, when we did TV, we did 3 segments. When I came back out as Dangerous Danny Davis with Jimmy, and fooled with it was like a different segment. It was like a week later. People wouldn't see that till a week later,
Gotcha.
the next week. But if everybody in the arena, it was just a continuation of what was going on that day.
Oh,
So yeah, I had no idea what they were doing. I mean, and Jimmy had that outfit for me, and all that stuff. I had no idea, but it was something that was never done before to that degree of success.
Amen.
And as you all know, it's all been tried before again.
Sure.
And it's just like anything else in this business. You can't duplicate something of that magnitude. There'll never be another Fred Blassie. There'll never be another Bruno Sammartino. There'll never be another Killer Kowalski. You can't do it.
Right.
And it's not. You can try it, and you may make some money, but it's never going to pop like it did in that spot, in that time frame. It's not going to work again.
Yeah.
So, and I fit the bill because of my my street creds. I mean, I know how to act like an asshole, and I know how to do all that stuff. It came natural. and they may have seen that in me, so I don't know.
So, Danny, what did you think when they gave you the striped referee gear to wrestle in?
Well, the thing was, I liked it. I liked the outfit. I liked the thing, and they put it over on TV. He's coming out with especially the commentators. He's dressed in his referee stuff. Good for him. Blah, 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 blah. But nobody knows this. But as a street kid, I had some funky tattoos on my arms.
Oh.
And Vince Jr. at the time hated tattoos. So they came up with the long sleeves and the white top.
Got it.
So that's why, and I hated that. That thing was so hot and so hard to work it, and it looked like shit. But I, number one, didn't have the resources or the time to have the cover-ups. And Vince, now, later on, tattoos were a big acceptance, and Vince accepted it. But mine were kind of funky and kind of offensive. So, if they had told me prior to this happening, get that shit covered up or whatever, then I probably would have. Of course, I would have done that, but
right. Yeah,
that's not what happened. So that's the story there. So I hated that outfit. I really did. In terms of heat, the first one wasn't bad, and I tried to get thinner tops and stuff like that, and talk Vince out of letting me take that off, and he said, "Absolutely not. That's your image now. That's it." And then, of course, see, a lot of guys come into that in that era. When you got a push, they don't realize that push is going to end someday.
Right.
Very quick, and it could end quickly. I mean, we ran for 4 or 5 years. I don't remember what it was, but I understood that, and that this was something that an oddity that isn't going to last, and eventually they're going to kill it. So
yeah,
and I went into it with that attitude, and when it was over, it was over.
Yeah,
and I accepted that.
Yeah.
A lot of guys jumped off the bridge when they heard that. Oh shit, what am I going to do now?
Right.
But you go on. Life. See, a lot of these guys go into this business, and that's all they know, brother.
No
See, I
plan
was
B.
fortunate enough.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough. When I had breaks, I got a CDL Class A during my time wrestling. I got licenses to operate machinery, hydraulic machinery, and and an OSHA license, so I could work construction when this was all over. So I had a backup, and a lot of guys didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, for a while there, it was bumpy when you got out of it, and there's a side story to that, but which I'll hold on to why I got out of the business. But when I got out, I was prepared.
Yeah, that's good.
A lot of guys weren't. A lot of guys thought it would last forever, and I don't want to lengthen this answer, but a lot of people don't understand the business as they think they do. They think the kayfabe meant don't say anything and stuff like that, but there was a lot more to that from the older guys.
Mm.
These guys wrestled during the Depression, the Fred Blassies, the Beautiful Bobbies. They earning nickels wrestling in barns and shit.
Yeah.
For peanuts. Traveling, getting there the best way they could. And even when it was good times, it was $25 a night, $15 a night. You would wrestle 3 or 4 times. You would go in as one under one name, then go back and get a full body cover with a mask and go out and wrestle again. You'd wrestle 3 or 4 times. You'd make $25. You'd have to drive 100 miles. And back in those days, you know, it was tough.
Oh yeah.
So when you break into this business and you're an outsider, your time is limited.
Mm.
Okay? People don't realize that and it's deservingly so, because the guys who, when the business broke, there was money to be made, the guys that made the money, it deserved to make the money.
Right.
And I'm talking because they earned that place in the business.
Yeah.
So when you try and break into that business, you have to understand that these guys dedicated their whole lives to it. And I'm talking about the stars that you saw on TV that were working on top, and you say, you know, shit, why don't they push this guy? Because that's the way it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get that. They think they break into the business, they're going to. Back then, today it's a whole different ballgame. I don't even know what's going on. But back then, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
If you work down south, the people who you're going to work, and they're going to make the money. So that's how that goes.
No doubt.
Back then, that's how it was, and it was deservingly so, because again, they broke the business in. They built the business.
Yeah.
So and their kids got into business, and they deserve it. Like the Hennings and the Ortons and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Cowboy and his father was in the business. Those are the guys that people don't understand are going to make and should make the money. I mean, if they can work, and you know, they can't work, then you know they're asked to go somewhere else. But more, and that's what the kayfabe was. You know, we're gonna bring it. You know, they take guys off the street and brought them in, kick the shit out of them, and you know, back in the day, you know.
Mm-hmm. And now a word from our sponsor.
CHW is continuing the legacy of historic professional wrestling in Tennessee with monthly events at the Armory in Ashland City. CHW owner Mike Green has made it his mission to present the best pro wrestling shows in the Nashville area, and he has been delivering the goods. CHW Wrestling combines all the elements that Tennessee wrestling fans have come to expect. Action, suspense, athleticism, reality, stories, surprises, and excitement, all delivered by the finest professional wrestlers this state has to offer. Follow CHW Pro Wrestling on Facebook for the latest news, announcements, and show dates. And subscribe to Championship Productions on YouTube to see past events like the Ashland City Rumble and the Valentine's Massacre. Fun for the whole family with delicious and affordable concessions on site. Witness the action and excitement of CHW in Ashland City at the Armory. Family Wars, Love and Hate, Championship Gold. A CHW event is everything you're looking for in a night of live entertainment.
So taking it back there to when you first started wrestling there, you for the first few months you kind of wrestled Coco like almost like every night basically. How was wrestling Coco?
Well, the thing was, when I first got went to see wrestling, these guys were grown men, 6'2", 6'5",
Yeah.
300 pounds. They're giants.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What Vince was trying to prepare the wrestling world for was there are smaller guys that can work and will be pushed.
Yeah.
So we were the group of guys who initially brought the wrestling world smaller guys. Sam Houston, Coco Ware, myself, and everybody else we worked with.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not so small. We were, I was like a half inch short of 6 feet. Coco was, I don't know how tall he was. Sam Houston, but he had to make a move because he saw that the big guys are gone and that regular sized guys are going to have to be the next generation to push this business forward.
Mm.
Now, if you look at the guys now, very few guys are that big like they were back then. There are no Freddie Blassies. There are no Killer Kowalskis. There are no
Bruno's.
the big
Yeah.
Bruno Sammartinos, and huge guys, King Curtis, Baron Cicluna. Christ, they were giants, and they worked. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, working in the business. So that is why Vince kind of pushed this narrative to these people, and they bought it. And then when he tried to do the lightweights, not light heavyweights,
Mm-hmm.
the guys under 200 pounds, and now very few guys are big guys, and
Right.
they're selling tickets.
Yep.
So that was the reasoning for us to introduce and integrate smaller guys into the business, and I was part of that.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So on March 29th of 87, you worked WrestleMania 3. This is one of the most legendary pay-per-views of all time with the Hart Foundation. How was it working in front of that massive crowd?
Let me tell you something about that.
Okay.
I had no idea that I was going to be, if you look at the time frame, I was just turned to Dangerous Danny Davis like months before that.
Right.
And they told me I'm going to WrestleMania 3. I'm going to be a 6-man and WrestleMania 3. I said, what? And then they told me they're going to put me over.
Oh man.
What? What in what? I just, and I did it.
Yeah.
And I did it. And I was, and it was a match. And I did the thing the way I was supposed to do it. And it was perfect. Even when Jimmy threw me the horn, I caught the horn, did the thing, and threw it back to Jimmy. Perfect. Everything was perfect.
It was.
And they came back, and I don't know whether they did that to see if I would fail, whether I would freeze, but it was a test. And when I passed the test, I got patted on the back. Good job, great job. Damn it, And you ask me what it's like from my perspective, from being a referee one day and 3 months later I'm in WrestleMania 3, one of the biggest events in history. Well, when I went out on that cart, brother, there are no words. And everybody asked me that. Many people ask me that question.
Yeah.
And let me just say this: when you have a dream, and that dream is actually taking place or happening, until you experience it and know how that feels, and then perpetuate it into an arena of that magnitude, I can't come up with words to express and I'm going to use the phrase, awesomeness and feeling of accomplishment and success in your lifetime, especially being a kid from the streets who nobody was there, brother. Nobody was there for me when I fell down or got hurt or had to eat or find a place to sleep. And here I am. I don't know if anybody in there can imagine the feeling that took place that night.
No
but
doubt.
I'm going to tell you this. Other than my children being born, I don't think I've ever felt anything as great as that. And that's all I can say.
I mean, I believe you. You don't. The sentiment is felt. So after about 3 months, they switched out Coco with George the Animal Steel. So obviously, Coco's one thing, George is another. Obviously, George comes around, a longtime veteran at that time. So how was it working with George after working with Coco?
Brother, do you remember the doll, mine?
Oh yeah, of course.
All right. I would go in and half the match spot shows would be with that doll. I would throw George out of the ring. George would be walking around, doing his thing, and I'd grab the doll. I'd throw it down on the ground. I'd drop elbows on it. I'd pick it up. I'd give it super. And then I'd put it back, and George would come in and kick the shit out of me, and we'd go home. But George and he praised me so many times. George was snug. And if you know what that means, he liked it snug.
Mm-hmm.
He liked to be, and so did I. So George was really, really rough with me. And I was really, really rough with him.
Okay.
And when the times when we were locked up or throwing punches or whatever we were doing, it was tight, it was hard, and it was stiff, what they call stiff. And neither one of us complained. Neither one of us said anything about it. We just continued, and he asked to work with me after a while.
That's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
how awesome is that?
Very cool. Very cool.
And I talked to Jim Myers right up until the day he died.
Yeah. Rest in peace, George, for sure.
Amen, brother. Amen.
How was it like? How was it like working those six-man matches with the Hart Foundation? That just had to be, because they were just gelling at that time. So how was it? They threw you in there.
Well, do you know the background of those guys?
Oh yeah,
they started in Alberta together. They were brothers, they were in-laws and shit like that. They worked together since they were started in the business.
Yeah.
Them and the Bulldogs. They were all family, and they started out. And if you watch some of those early tapes of the Dynamite Kid, Christ, he was 80 pounds, 60 pounds, or something like that. When they started out.
Yeah.
So Brett and Jim were like fine-tuned, as you put it out. Yeah. You put it. They gelled. I mean, there was, they knew each other's moves before they made it, stuff like that. And for them guys who allow me to be part of that tag match in WrestleMania 3 was one of the highest compliments anybody could get in that business as a guy who's just starting out.
Yeah.
And they treated me. They didn't do me any favors, but they didn't do anything to hurt me either. Anything that I did, I had to do on my own.
Yeah.
And they made sure that I was in the right place at the right time, et cetera, because they were professionals. It was business. They were going to make some money. And that's what it's all about. And I appreciated it. Thanked them very much, especially Davey Boy taking the bump from me and put me over. I mean, I didn't have no right for that. I didn't think I deserved that.
Yeah.
And he did it with like a man. He did it and took it like a man. And that's what makes the wrestling business. That's what made the wrestling business what it was back in the day. Yeah. The willingness to realize, look, we're making money, do the right thing, and et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on, but I'm not gonna. So to answer to your question, there's anything I did after that was I don't want to say routine, but there's nothing to top that.
Yeah.
Nothing to top. I mean, nothing. I've had some other times that were good, but WrestleMania 3, that thing, you can't replace that. There's nothing follows that. You can't follow that up with anything better than that. Let's just put it that way.
I don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I got is there in that time period, Honky Tonk Man would come in there and he was getting pushed a little bit. You got any good Honky Tonk Man stories?
When they put the strap on him, when they put the strap on him, they didn't want him to have that strap.
Really?
And you can ask him.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that
for a long time, and but they busted his chops. They would send him on a flight to Texas to do a signing, and come back all the way to New York and wrestle that night, and ship him out that night over to Texas, California, do something, and fly him back. They just ran him ragged. Wow. But he held on to it, and he deserved to have that belt. But they didn't have the plans weren't that they had weren't for him to keep that belt.
Wow!
As long as he did.
Wow!
But he was, from the South. You know who his cousin is, and so he was well versed in the business.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that he got the break he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any bad stories or honky tonk? He was who he was. No, he was always on time. He did his job, and he was someone that you had to admire because of the shit they were doing to him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Danny, I love talking to people who have a wrestling figure, because that's why they call me the Plastic Sheik, because I collect action figures, wrestling figures especially.
Action figure.
So you have I think it was around 2008, 2009, you got one of those Jakks Classic Superstars figures. And then a few years back, you got a Build-A-Figure with the Mattel line. Where you had to buy I think it was a WrestleMania. You had to buy the WrestleMania figures of I think Cactus Jack. Yeah, some of those. So those are very cool.
Build-A-Ref, yeah.
Yeah, Build-A-Ref. So those are very cool. But I got to know, was there any talk among the referees back then with the original figure line, the LJN figures? That was kind of a generic ref. Did you all debate who they were making that one after, though?
Well, I had the contract with those people in California that do the first figure.
Okay.
And then they sent me. They were supposed to do all three. They were supposed to do Mr. X, Dangerous Danny Davis, and the ref. But they did Dangerous Danny Davis first. I mean, the ref first, and they sent me the prototypes and went with it. And then Vince WWF sold the right or switched companies
to Mattel. Yeah,
and so to Mattel. So they never even got.
We missed out on those. That's for sure.
So there are a few out there, and they're very expensive. But just to let you know, I have new figures coming out, and it's with Title Run Toys.
Cool.
I was gonna ask you that. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're going to do all three. They're going to do, and they're working on the referee now. They've already got the wrestler. They're going to work on the referee, and then they're going to do Mr. X.
That is awesome.
And then they're going to build. There's another company that's going to make an even larger one of me. That's going to come out soon, also. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Be on the lookout for those. The Title Run Toys. They had the pre-sales.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that they sent me a note saying that I was the second highest seller out of the three that they did. So be on the lookout for those. And to answer to your question, no, we had no idea. Nobody had any idea back then of the figures and figurines and all that stuff. That all happened all at once. Somebody come up with a concept, or somebody wrote a letter to somebody, and that's how that thing. And now it's a big thing. I mean, there's, you go into these secondhand shops or yard sales, you see them all over the place. Boxes of them. But so the referees were always the last to be picked for anything like that.
Yeah.
I was picked because of my referee, my wrestling, and the Mr. X thing. A lot of people don't realize Mr. X. They do now, but I mean, they didn't then, and they weren't supposed to. But
right.
So the career of wrestling, people only know the time I was Dangerous Danny Davis, but they don't realize that years and years and years before that, I was wrestling Mr. X all over the place.
I know. I think that's so awesome.
But no, the referees again were always the last pick, even thought of as, because you're not going to. They didn't feel like that the money was there or the interest was there. But now that things have changed and the time has passed, I think that the referees would do. Again, as we said on the outset of this conversation, I think that there should be a Hall of Fame for referees. I think they deserve more recognition, and to make figures of them, I think would be and is a good idea.
Yeah, and you have to have the referees if you're gonna have a ring and you're gonna have a match. You got to have a referee to be a part of it.
Well, they're not. They back in the day, they're even more a part of it, because let me tell you something. And I don't care if you repeat it or not, but some of the guys that went in there and worked, they were good workers, but they would ask, "Where are we going now?" The referee. And you say, "Yeah, brother, you got to they're going to put you in the car. He's going to come in and give you a call." Oh, all right, thank you. Because not that they get lost sometimes, and the referee can help them.
Right.
Yeah. They'd say, "Look, tell him to go." They'd call you over and you'd be counting, and they'd be saying, "Look, tell him to do this," and you'd have to go back over there and tell him this is what he wants to do. And so the referee, but nobody knew that. And it was an important part of sometimes, like, as you just pointed out, keeping the match together.
Yeah.
But we got recognized for that in terms of the boys, the wrestlers.
Oh yeah.
And they would ask, once you started being asked for by the wrestlers, the people that were wrestling, then you knew you were in. Can I have Danny? Can Danny do my match? Someone says going to be, can I have Danny? Or can I have Earl? Or can I have David? And no hard feelings.
Right.
Oh, Joey Morello.
Oh,
there's another one that should be there. Joey Morello, the guy. He was a hell of a baseball pitcher. That he was being looked at for the minor leagues at the time. But yeah, he had a hell of an arm. He had a 90 an hour, was it?
Wow.
Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a hell of a pitcher. Yeah. Wow. God bless him.
Yeah. Rest in peace to him too.
Yes, sir, boy. That was a terrible night for all of us.
No doubt.
So after 2 years of wrestling in 1989, you go back to reffing. Did you want to stop wrestling, or was that who's that?
No. I was gone right after that. No, I had plans to get out of the business.
Okay.
And that was my something I had to do, and that's another story. Maybe some other time we can talk about it.
Yeah. Well, part 2 in the future. We'll leave it at that. So obviously, I've talked to this gentleman. There's the Nightmare Danny Davis. Now, the difference is he's not actually a real Danny Davis, and you are the real Danny Davis. Have you ever met him? Have you ever worked with him? What are your...
No. And there's another guy in Tennessee. There's one in Tennessee. There's one in Canada. And then there's me.
Yeah, and this is
and
the one
I've gotten. Yeah, how can I say this with diplomacy? I've gotten some calls on notices about shit that wasn't me. Let's just say that.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you have to, and I don't know. I've never had any trouble with them claiming anything money-wise that,
right.
Everything. But I have had to explain that and make sure that they have the right Danny Davis when they're talking. Sometimes when they book me, they call me and say, "This is Danny Davis." Yeah. And then they say, "Oh, you wrestled it." I say, "No, you got the wrong guy."
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a difference in your accents. Let's just be honest. There's the Tennessee and the New England accent. So
yeah. And I don't think they're bigger pricks than I am, but
we won't say that. You've been awesome.
Bigger heels than I am.
There you go. Amen. Yeah. Although Nightmare had a good heel run, but we'll get into that another time.
I know. Yeah, I'm having fun. Yeah. I'm not saying anything against these guys.
No, I know you're
All
not.
right, gentlemen.
So we've got one more question. We're going to leave you alone, Danny.
All right, boss.
Sheik, take
I'm enjoying this.
Good.
Yeah, we're enjoying it too. So if you had to look back on your career and you say that was my favorite match I was a part of, what would it be?
All right. I'm glad you asked that question.
Oh, awesome.
As Mr. X, you know Steve Lombardi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve Lombardi and I, when Bruno's kid back in the business, and we were in Poughkeepsie, New York, and they were going to have a tag match, Bruno and his son, and me and Steve Lombardi, me as Mr. X. I went into the ring, and we had the match with Bruno and his son, and after the match, I got a message that Vince wants to see me in the office. And I went into the office, and on the way there, I'm saying I'm done. That's why I worked with Bruno. I blew it. You know, he's mad. He's pissed off. So I walk in the office, and there's Bruno, Vince, sitting there, and they're looking at me. And they said, sit down. I sat down. I said, you know, I'm saying to myself, you know what's going through my mind. Bruno got up, said, stand up. He shook my hand, and he said, I told Vince this, and I'm going to tell you to your face. There should be 100 more guys like you. Thank you very much. That was a great match.
Wow.
So if you ask me what match in my career was one that stands out, it was that night and that day. And for every time I ran into Bruno at an event somewhere, at a signing, he would always mention, yeah, I was 45 years old and I kicked the shit out of this 18-year-old kid, and we would shake hands and laugh. And so that would be one of the most memorable matches in my career.
That's awesome.
No doubt.
Great stuff.
Didn't expect all that, did you?
No,
but that's a great story. Some people will freeze at that question, but you were ready for it.
Well, I've asked that a lot.
Yeah.
And that is it, man. That's the match.
I love it.
So they say, not WrestleMania 3, not this one, not this. And no, that was the match. And, you know, to have a man, Bruno Sammartino, shake your hand in front of Vince and tell Vince that he needs 100 more guys like me, man, how big is that compliment is that? You don't get a compliment like that ever.
Oh, none bigger. Man, well, Dangerous Danny Davis, this has been an incredible interview. We one more time have to remind everybody, Sunday, July 13th, the Captain's Corner Happy Hour virtual signing with our main man, Dangerous Danny Davis. We're excited. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us, sir.
And thank you. Give me back my pro wrestling.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Thank you. All right, that was the one and only Dangerous Danny Davis. We'll be right back with Quinton and the Plastic Sheik on Gimme Back My Pro Wrestling.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Well, stop by Captain's Corner, where you can get autographed photos, cards, magazines, and figures from all of your favorite wrestling superstars of the past, present, and future. You'll also be able to participate in live signings in the weeks and months to come. Make sure to stop by Captain's Corner on Facebook and give us a holler. Remember, cheers to the working man.
Listen up, you bunch of slack-jawed flea market freeloaders. If you think you know Memphis wrestling, you don't know nothing till you've heard the Retro Wrestling Review podcast, brother. Every week they're talking the real stuff. Lawler, Jarrett, PG-13, yeah, and even my Moondogs. Watch long stories from the road, interviews with folks who were in the thick of it, brother. The blood, the beer, and the bail money. It's all on the Wrestlecopia Podcast Network. Go to uswapodcast.com, or I'll come down there and I'll slap a taste out of your mouth.
Moondogs are howling, the Moondogs are howling, the Moondogs are vicious and mean. Tonight the Moondogs are looking for trouble, and you can hear it in their screams. So stay out of the swamp, 'cause the full moon is shining big and bright, and you might run into a Moondog and meet your biggest fight.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
All right, Sheik and Quinton, one more time, one more awesome interview. Dangerous Danny Davis. What'd y'all think about that?
It was great. Great to hear his story. We obviously knew some about him, but to hear his start was basically with the WWF. So that was very, very cool to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was shocked that Mr. X. I mean, he did that for a long time before he actually started wrestling as Danny Davis. I mean, it's like, wow, he actually wrestled a long time and nobody knew it.
I know. And then him telling that story about riding out on the cart in front of that many 100,000 people, basically. Yeah. I mean, when you get down to it, and man, I can't imagine that. And yeah,
that cart thing might be one of my favorite wrestling things ever. Like that's not an actual match. That may be one of my favorite. I don't know. I remember it even from the video game that had that like cart entrance, and it's always just like stuck in my brain, and I can't help. Like I would buy one of those carts.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe that you would.
They'll maybe call me the motorized Sheik or something like that.
Be the hit of the neighborhood right around that thing.
You would definitely be the hit.
I would. I would ride it.
Sheik, you just riding that anywhere you go.
I'd be at any parade they had. I mean, I would be like riding it always.
Oh my gosh, how can we make that happen? Yeah.
I'm sure once I saw a price tag on probably one of those, it would probably be like,
that desire would shrink a bit.
Can we get a reproduction of one?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, guys, like we said, we got to thank Nick and Captain's Corner. Thank you so much. The Captain's Corner virtual signing happy hour is going to be this Saturday, July 13th. Y'all make sure you're there to see Danny Davis and get your autograph. We got to thank you all so much for that. Next week, we've got the awesome This Month in Wrestling History with Quinton Quarisma, episode 1 dropping. Y'all show up for that. It's going to be awesome. We can't wait for you to hear it. And I can't wait to hear it, man. I'm excited.
I can't wait either. It'll be great.
And of course, if you want to keep up with all things Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, go to @GMBMPW on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X. And guys, one more time, we've got something very cool to give away. We've got some very cool items that we're going to give away. But the way to win this is you got to go on Apple Podcasts, give us your best rating and review. And then once we get a bunch of those done, we'll pick from the best. And I'm going to send out a prize pack that you're going to want. I promise you're not going to want to miss out on this. A lot of cool memorabilia, merchandise, signed memorabilia, that kind of cool stuff. So y'all be looking out for that. Make sure you go to Apple Podcasts and hit us up with a rating and a review. And we'll pick the best one. And whoever does that, we will send you that prize pack. So be on the lookout for that and so much more from the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling team. Guys, that's all I got for today. What about y'all?
Yep. Great episode, guys.
All I got is please pray for the people in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
That flood down there, that's just been awful. And buy a shirt.
Thank you. Absolutely. Pray for Texas and buy a shirt. 2 things you need to do today. No, seriously. Thank you so much for that, Quinton, and thank you all for listening one more time to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. So for Dangerous Danny Davis, the Plastic Sheik Jared Street, the Territory Wrestling Guru Quinton Quarisma, and myself, this has been Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. We'll see y'all next time.
Don't forget,
Danny Davis has a statement to make to us at this time. Mr. Davis, you do have a statement to make to us. To all those people who think that I owe them an apology for the way I officiate, well, I'm sorry, even though I don't mean it.
With a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life.
This has been a James Rock Street production.